I do know there's going to be an impact from these decisions.
Yeah.
I recognise I'm not going to be like the government and play this stupid blame game and naively suggest there's somehow an easier way. There is not. Unfortunately, we've got ourselves into a huge mess with the ridiculous amount of spending we responded to in COVID, and now the actions of other Western countries to shut down their own energy systems because of net zero emissions. That mess means we have to make tough choices. The longer we defer these tough choices, the harder it is going to get for everybody. And so, yes, interest rates are going to have to be higher than they would otherwise be unless we turn our back on net zero. This is one thing I didn't quite get to today, Alan, but the points I'm making about energy, if we want to have a disinflationary effect, if we drop net zero emissions and develop our own economies, that is the way. That is the easy way, if you like, out of this mess. But in the absence of that, interest rates are going to have to go up.
You asked him about, was he aware that in these policy settings there is a risk, and he acknowledged there was a risk, and you retorted that if there is a risk, which there is, a risk that some businesses will fall, you asked, how important is it then to have flexible labour markets in that environment, these are your words, such that businesses can respond to the changes that are caused by a higher interest rate environment. Now, he then said that, quote, if the business environment is uncertain, businesses should have flexibility. Matt, Senator Canavan, does business have flexibility under an Albanese-Bowen government?
Well, it's gotten a lot worse for businesses out there over this past year. The government's been very anti-business. As you alluded to earlier, they have certainly not been elected on that mandate. They said nothing about multi-employer bargaining, bringing back effectively the industrial relations regime that existed before Paul Keating. That's what they've done. The labour market regime we had in place since the Hawke-Keating government has been relatively flexible, allowed businesses and workers to negotiate in a relatively harmonious way while still keeping minimum protections for vulnerable people there. It worked. It's not like the last 20 or 30 years has been a garden of roses in terms of the economy in our region. We had the Asian financial crisis, we had the dot-com crisis, we had September 11, of course, the GFC bigger than all. And the Australian economy and the labour market sailed through all of it. We didn't have a recession. We had a lot of change, a lot of upheaval, a lot of change, but businesses and workers were able to respond to that change and minimise the pain. What I worry about with the upheavals we're seeing in the world economy now is that these rigidities that the Labor Party has introduced in our economy in terms of making it harder for businesses and workers to negotiate agreements will make it much harder when there's more shocks to come on energy or geopolitics in the future, and would cause a much, much greater fallout, possibly a recession in this country. Now, if that happens, that'll be at the feet of this Labor government, who have no mandate to make these changes and are certainly not acting on the best economic advice of the likes of
I mean, Chalmers is going to remodel and remake capitalism. I've never heard of such infantile. I call him the Greta Thunberg of economics.